Oh, man, I've been wanting to have this guy on the show for a while. We're talking CIA, we're talking prison, we're talking mob guys, assassination in a hotel, UFOs, Epstein, JFK, AI history.
Whoa.
This guy, I want to have him on as a regular basis, so I better figure out how to say his last name. It's John Kiriakou. Kiriakou.
That's
Kiriakou.
Okay. Nobody ever gets it right.
No, I would think no one gets it right.
If that is his name.
Did you change it in the CIA to make it easier for people?
It's tough to remember.
I probably should have. I probably wouldn't have had so much trouble.
It was actually longer.
Yeah,
this is half of it.
Let's start with how does a CIA intelligence officer who's doing great work for the CIA end up in prison?
He objects to a torture program that was created and decided upon way over his pay grade. That's how it happens. Wow. But you know what? Sometimes you have to stick to your guns. Either the oath that you take on your first day at the CIA is for real or it's not for real. Either we're a nation of laws or we're not a nation of laws. You can't pretend to be the good guys and then just break laws because you don't like them or they don't fit into what your goal is. And I wouldn't back down. And then finally, when they wouldn't do anything about it, I went public.
Yeah, you went on ABC, right, and talked about waterboarding?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's right. Yep.
Wow.
I did.
It takes a lot of balls to do that. A lot of people get inside the machine and they're like, I just want to be a part of the machine. I don't want to buck the machine. And so they didn't come after you for that. They found something else and then they put you in prison. You were looking at what, 45 years?
45 years. Yeah. And, funny thing, too, they charged me with 3 counts of espionage because I did this interview with ABC News, and then I did a subsequent interview for the New York Times. And I remember saying to my attorneys, espionage, I didn't commit espionage. And he said, there's no way these charges are gonna be able to continue. And what they did is they waited until I went bankrupt from legal fees, and then they dropped all the espionage charges.
Wow. That's gross.
It's a little game that they play.
Wow.
When you see this on a show like 24 or a show or a movie, you're like, oh, that's just so gross. And you just see it as a movie, but, you're just destroying someone's life.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that the truth? And, Harry Truman once famously said, if you want a friend in Washington, get a dog. And that can't be any more true than it is today.
So you end up making a deal and you go to prison for how long?
23 months.
23 months. And you get there, and thanks to somebody in the prison who said, no, he's not a rat. FBI's rat, CIA, not rat. You were able to survive and live a good life in prison. God bless Mark Lanzalotti, whom I had never met, I had never heard of, but 4 days before I went to prison, there was an article about me in the New York Times on the front page saying that I was going to start this prison sentence at the Federal Correctional Institution at Loretto, Pennsylvania. And God bless him, he took it upon himself to go to every single one of the Italians in that prison to say, listen, there's a CIA guy coming here. He's not FBI. CIA and FBI are different, he told them. He said the CIA protects us from the Muslims, and the FBI are all cops and rats. And so when I arrived, not yet knowing any of this, they welcomed me with open arms. And it was because of that kindness, that generosity, that I ended up having as easy a time as I possibly could have had in prison.
Wow.
John Kiriakou? Kiriakou?
Yes, sir. Kiriakou.
Kiriakou. All right.
Kiriakou.
John Kiriakou is on author, journalist, former intelligence officer. Also listed in your credits, whistleblower. Do you like that one?
Well, I was two minds of that. When I was first arrested, there was an attorney, a female attorney for a whistleblowing organization called the Government Accountability Project, who was giving a lot of interviews about my case. I had never met her,
But a friend of mine suggested that I reach out to her, so I did. Just a few days after my arrest, and I went down to her office to see her, and I sat there for 2 hours and talked to her, and she agreed to help my criminal defense attorneys with the case. And as I was walking out, I said, listen, I want to thank you again for taking the case. I know that you only represent whistleblowers, and I'm not a whistleblower. And she said, oh, you're the poster boy for whistleblowing. And I said, I'm not, though. I'm just a normal guy who happened to say something. And she said, and this is something really no whistleblower understands at the beginning. There's a legal definition of whistleblowing. It's bringing to light any evidence of waste, fraud, abuse, illegality, or threats to the public health or public safety. Your motivation is irrelevant. If you do that, you're a whistleblower.
The abuse of someone, that falls under that definition, no?
It does. And to make it even more clear that it does, the United States is a signatory, more than a signatory. We actually wrote the United Nations Convention Against Torture. In 1946, we executed Japanese soldiers who had waterboarded American POWs. And then in January of 1968, the Washington Post ran a front-page photograph of an American soldier waterboarding a North Vietnamese prisoner. That soldier was arrested. He was convicted of torture and sentenced to 20 years at Leavenworth. Ugh. Well, over the years, the law never changed. We just decided in 2002 that we were going to pretend the law didn't exist, and we were going to do whatever we wanted to do because we're the good guys. And that's just not the way a democracy functions.
I love that you didn't care what it was going to do to you. You had to do what you felt was right.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of movies are made based on people like you.
Thank you for that. The price has been high. I'm not going to lie.
No, it's, yeah.
Understandable, yeah.
We want to talk to you the next time you're on about the assassination attempt in the hotel. But I want to do a couple small inside baseball, and then I know you're a historian, so I want to talk something. It's kind of Thanksgiving related. So Epstein.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
I'm very confident that he was what we call an Israeli access agent. And here's what I mean. If you're the Israeli Mossad and you want inside information from the top, from somebody like a former president, a senior member of the royal family, the CEO of the world's biggest company, you're not going to be able to recruit those people and get them to report to you. So you do the next best thing. You recruit somebody who can get next to those people, elicit the information, and then send the information back to you. It's a classic access agent case. This is exactly what they teach us to do in training. If you're not going to recruit the prime minister of the country you're in, but you may recruit the secretary or the driver or the valet, and they have ears. They're listening to all this classified information. They can report back to you. And I'm 100% confident that's what we had in the Epstein case.
If that was a government thing, and you're right, wouldn't they say stay away from the young girls? That's going to creep it's going to creep people out.
Right.
If they knew about it, yeah. Yeah, they should have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think that he committed suicide?
I do, only because, I'll tell you, if I had not been in prison myself, I would have said no, he was probably murdered. But having been in prison, yeah, I believe he committed suicide because, number one, the security cameras are always broken. They might as well just be there for decoration. They don't work most of the time. Number two, the guards are all idiots. And yeah, they're asleep in the guard booth. They're not paying attention to who's doing what. Number three, they weren't supposed to work double shifts, and everybody in that unit was working a double shift. So everything that could have gone wrong went wrong, which is not unusual at all inside a prison. If the qualifications to be a prison guard are very simply that you have to have a GED or be working on a GED and no felony convictions, and your starting pay is going to be like, $8 an hour or whatever, you get what you pay for.
Just for the record, if you're a prison guard listening, That wasn't me saying that.
No.
That was someone on the phone who does not live in Connecticut. Okay.
You know my voice. It wasn't me.
I don't need any trouble. I appreciate them going in, and all of their customers every day hate them.
I was working in the chapel, and the chaplain came up to me very concerned one day, and he said, Kiriakou, listen, I got to warn you, you are immensely unpopular here. And I said, among the prisoners? And he says, no, among the guards. And I said, oh, chaplain. Oh, my God, you scared me there for a second. Yeah, okay, thank you.
UFOs.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Yeah, well, the reporting on UFOs would always go straight back to the Pentagon. This is literally the first question that everybody asks when you first join the CIA. Where's the UFO information? I want to see it. And they all laugh and say, oh, my God, we've all asked that same question. Everything that's reported goes directly to the Pentagon. They hold it. We don't have a need to know. We collect foreign intelligence. But you know what? I've got to tell you, when I was 17 years old, my dad and I saw something that we talked about for the rest of his life that I have no explanation for. It was flying. It was 1,000 feet off the ground. It made no sound at all. It was glowing orange, and then it took off at a fantastic speed that even my description couldn't fully convey.
Do you think
there's got to be something out there?
And now you have Obama acknowledging it. You have other people acknowledging it. You have a lot of former generals and intelligence officers acknowledging it. It all seems to be coming together. I almost feel like, I don't know. I think they're going to play a trick on us. This is going to be like a COVID virus, All right, the enemy's coming. Now we got to have you all.
Right.
I don't know. There's something. Why are they all of a sudden talking about it?
Well, only because some of the information was leaked 2 years ago by a Pentagon whistleblower. And the funny thing is, people at the CIA always used to be of the belief that the Pentagon's not going to release the information because they don't want people to panic. They don't want Americans to panic. Okay, a whistleblower leaked the information to the media, and people said, moderately interesting. Yeah, we've seen things too. I'm going to get on with my day. There was no panic. So I say the information is not what they call currently and properly classified. There's no reason to classify it. Who with classification authority classified the information that some kid in Kansas looked up and saw a glowing orb? Why is that classified? Release it all and let us decide.
John Kiriakou is on, former CIA intelligence officer, author, journalist, and historian. One more government thing and then a historian thing. Real quick, JFK, one shooter or no?
For the longest time, and I mean until like 2 or 3 years ago, I believed that there was one shooter and it was Lee Harvey Oswald. And now there's so much more information that has come out that's compelling. So much information about what a CIA officer by the name of George Ioannidis was doing in Miami Station. And with the latest tranche of information that was released by President Trump, indicating that James Jesus Angleton, the deputy director of the CIA for counterintelligence, had ordered that CIA recruit Oswald. It was clearly a broader conspiracy. Clearly. I mean, the Israelis were angry because Kennedy wouldn't give them nuclear assistance. The Cubans hated him. The Miami Cubans especially hated him.
CIA hated him. The mob hated him.
CIA hated him.
Not a good time to go out in a convertible, really.
No.
Exactly right. And we also now know that there was an earlier plan to try to kill him in Chicago 2 or 3 weeks before Dallas. And that had been classified and kept from us for decades.
All right,
there were a lot of people that wanted him dead.
I think the first sign was that they said none of these files are going to be opened until 50 years after everyone's dead. Yeah. Like, okay, there's something more here. Since tomorrow's Thanksgiving and we're all going to be baking and eating, can you tell us, we know you're a historian, you love history, can you tell us about the baking inventors?
So I've just come out with a book. Actually, it's going to be released on March 24th at rarebirdlit.com. lit.com, called Remains of the Day, a definitive guide to Washington, D.C.'s historic cemeteries. I love cemeteries, and I was wandering around the biggest one in town 2 years ago, and I just stumbled on this gorgeous private mausoleum, the Butler Brothers. These guys wanted to be bakers. They were born in the late 1860s. They wanted to be scientists, is what it was. And their father said, "No, you're going to be bakers," because they didn't have any money to send these two brothers to college. So instead, they did an apprenticeship at a bakery. They hated it, and so they're in the bakery one day, which they inherited when the baker retired, and they decided to try to invent something so that they wouldn't have to knead all this dough and mix all this crap together. So they invented the world's first mixer, and they made a mint. They patented it, and it was sold all the way out to the frontier, which at the time was Cincinnati. And then they invented another machine that could weigh and then cut the dough so that every loaf was exactly the same size, weight, and shape. And then they decided to use milk in the dough instead of water, and it made it very fluffy. And they made millions. These guys owned an entire city block in Washington and ended up with the biggest bakery on the East Coast of the United States. So there were a couple of other inventions, like hiring an army of boys to deliver the bread to your house in time for dinner so it's still warm. And then they made cakes and pies and treats and all different kinds of things. And then they finally retired. Well, they sold the business around the start of the First World War to a company called the National Biscuit Company, Nabisco. And Nabisco loved the business, loved the products. They hated the name of the bread, which was just one of those 19th century big, long, stupid names. And that was the only thing they changed, was the name of the flagship bread, and they changed it to Wonder Bread.
And it's still around. Bananas.
Wow.
Bananas.
Yep. And we all love it.
John, thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. We got to have you back.
Yes.
I'd love to.
You're like the hardest working podcast guest ever. I see you on them all.
I'm out there everywhere. Everywhere. People can find more at ivycyber.com.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
John Kiriakou. Thank you.